Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy podcast. You have now entered the next level. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy Next Level podcast. So we are going to have a brand new episode. It's been probably a little bit over a month since we did the last one, and I have some special guests today. And actually, for some reason, the computer wanted to work today. So I have all of us on at the same time, Mr. Craig McElhaney and Mr. Todd Holmes. And we got a lot to talk about. It's been a little while. Been a lot going on since then, since the last one. So let's get into it. All right, Craig. So let's talk about Craig first, because we got to get Craig out of the way. He had Craig always has to get himself talked about in there. So let's talk about him first. And obviously I'm just kidding, but Craig, we haven't had an opportunity to talk, just came back. Well, I guess it's been how long has it been since you've been back? 3 weeks now?
Yeah. I think about the end of June.
So almost 3 weeks.
Actually.
Yeah. Been a month. Yeah.
Yeah. Almost. Yeah.
So the last time we talked to Craig, he was getting ready for the Czech match, right? What was that called?
The 2022 Euro Extreme.
Euro Extreme. Okay.
Czech Republic. Yeah.
And how'd you do?
I did good, man. It was it was a unique match. It was 30 stages. I think 700 plus shooters. And overall, I would say I'm happy with my performance overall. I took 14th overall in PCC. I'm first place senior. I had some ups and downs, like what you expect in 30 stages. You know you're going to have ups and downs. I fell in eight stages, and that costs a lot of time. But I think that kept me at like 10th place. But
Man,
I'm happy with how I did overall.
I got a question. Hold on a second.
Mental, you got to really focus.
Yeah.
You got to, you can't.
Craig, hold on.
Can you hear me?
No, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I just want to ask, in Czech, did they have any Wi-Fi or internet on the prize table, or did you not get high enough to get good internet? No, not good. Oh, okay. So
yeah,
your internet is shit right now.
I'm in my garage. My stepmother here. So.
I'm not sure what you said, so I don't know. So walk around outside with your phone or something, and like kind of hold it up and like see if you can get the little antennas on it or something. Or
you get in your squad car and just go find a good spot and do it out there.
Let me try something.
So while we have technical difficulties with the internet in 2022, let's get into it with Todd, man. So how you been, brother, for a month? I mean, we talk all the time, so I kind of know where you're at, but kind of where you at with it. Like, we talked a lot the last time about getting prepared for nationals. Yeah. Where are you at with your training right now with that?
Physical training, doing better, doing some cardio, not as much as I wanted to, but the diet side of it is where I'm getting good at. Cut a lot of sugar out of my diet, a lot of the red meats, a lot of the fried foods, cut tons of sugar. I don't think the last time I had a soda, I can't tell you when it was. My banana broke in half on the way to the range the other day, and I didn't have another one. So I stopped at the gas station, and I was like, what am I getting? Oh, I like beef jerky. I don't like beef jerky anymore. Yeah. It tasted like shit. I was like, the beef jerky was always my go-to. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah,
there it is again.
Yeah, baby, you already starting the podcast off with the potty mouth. Woo! Over some beef jerky, man. We ain't even got into the good stuff yet.
I know. So I don't know. I think I've lost about 20 pounds in the last 6 weeks. So
that's awesome, dude. I didn't even know that. We've talked all the time. I didn't even think to ask about how your weight loss was going.
Yep.
That's awesome. Make you feel better?
Oh yeah, definitely feel better, and I'm not as fatigued when I'm leaving the range from the training sessions and stuff like that now. When I did, because we had our first night match at Belt and Gun Club, then a regular local match at Spartanburg, and then training on Sunday. And outside of me falling and my knee being jacked up, my legs and everything are good. So I wasn't physically fatigued.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
Yep.
So I know one thing we're going to talk about, and since we Craig's internet is shit, and you see him opening his garage door trying to get Wi-Fi from the outdoors. I guess I don't know what he's thinking, but are you you had your first DQ, brother, since then?
Yeah. Learned.
So yeah, let's talk about the DQ. So it's funny because I was shooting I can't remember. I don't know if I can't remember if I was shooting that day or if I was at the range. I think I was setting up a match or something. I remember I was on the range or I was shooting or something, and you messaged me that day. Actually, was that on a Sunday match?
No, it was a Saturday match, and I called you like within
you
5
did
minutes that you can't DQ because I was pissed.
That's right. So you got DQ'd, and I was like, what happened, with the DQ or whatever. So as we're talking, I'm like, send me the video, right? Like at the end, now the match was over, you were done, you were on your way to eat, and we were just all talking about it or whatever. I said, send me the video. And it was only a third person video, and I watched it and I was like, it's not a DQ. And you're like, how the hell can you tell that from this view? And I was like, I don't need to see it, I can hear it. So basically how the DQ happened was the RO assumed, because he heard the gun go off, that it was a DQ. But what he wasn't listening to was how the gun went off. So basically what happened with Todd was he was shooting at the targets. He shot 246 shots. And then as he was getting ready to exit, right, he shot another one. So, and I want to explain how this sounded. It went bang, 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 bang. That fast. Like no way he moved away from the target. That's how fast it was, right? And I actually probably did it slower than actually how I heard it on the video. So it basically sounded like you shot the last 2 shots into the last target and had to do a third makeup shot, is what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Well, watching the video, I could see where you were standing and I could see the location of the RO. And your question from the beginning was, or what you thought he called you on, was that he called it on a reload, like as if you were reloading. Mm-hmm. You didn't reload for another 5 steps. Like the reload hadn't happened for 5 steps, but he DQ'd you from when you were still standing in front of the targets.
Yeah. I was definitely going straight into a reload from there, but It was, and the third person view, like you saw, definitely wasn't there, but the hat view is what really pointed out when I went home and downloaded that, because I've got one of the old cameras that you can't see it at the range.
Right.
Did that, and I was like, yeah, that was as I'm pulling the gun back, finger still on the trigger, squeezed it to go go start the reload, not there yet, and fired off a shot right over the shoulder of the target.
Yeah.
You can see where it impacted on the berm behind. I'm like, son of a.
So the DQ that you received was actually that you shot over the berm.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
All right. So, and again, this is not I don't want to bang on the RO. This is not what this conversation is about. But there's a few things about the DQ that I feel like everyone, actually, let me rephrase that, because let's just not take it to the DQ. Let's take it to all of shooting and all the calls that get made against you as a shooter. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say argue, but you should know your case so you can have a conversation with the RO that you are having a conversation with. In other words, if I would have had that RO and he would have called a DQ, I would have immediately had an argument for the DQ call because of his positioning. That's the first thing. The second thing is I have pretty good eyes and I really watch people shoot a lot. I RO a lot. I run a match. I shoot a lot. It's very difficult to see a bullet go over the berm if you're standing right on top of the shooter. That's the first thing. Like if you're watching the gun, how are you seeing the bullet? That's the first thing, right? If you're watching the target, you have a chance to see the bullet fly, right? Because you can see bullets flying depending on how good your eyes are. Yeah. But when you're standing 5 steps away from a target, that target that you shot at was about 5 feet away. It was very close, correct?
Mm-hmm. It was, I don't know, 5 feet, but it was very close.
It was pretty damn close. Like in the video, I was like, that's pretty close. Like there wasn't a whole lot of distance there to where I'm like, all right, cool. You can really see that trajectory of the bullet going 25 yards and then take off out of the range. It was very close. So, and the RO that made this call was nowhere near position to see the shot go bang and where it could go. There's no way. It was an assumption call. Okay. And I understand, making that call, but the problem is if you're an RO, you have to be 100% sure that you saw what you saw. That's the first thing. Yes, and video is not admissible, and Todd didn't even pull the video out until, there wasn't an argument. Yeah. And this is kind of why I brought this up. There should have been an argument, or let me rephrase that.
There should have been
a discussion. It should have been an immediate discussion. Like, what did you see? Because this is what happened. This is what I did. And you saw that. So they don't line up. Like if the stories don't line, or like if the stories don't line up, they don't line up. It's not that he's wrong and I'm right. It should always be, as an RO and as a shooter, that you get the correct call, period. It should never be I'm right and you're wrong. Because if you go in with that attitude, someone's getting screwed, right? Or someone's going to be pissed at the end that they didn't get a fair shake. And that could also go on the RO side. Like if the RO is standing there and said, listen, I watched the guy DQ and this is what he did. This is what he did. This is when he took the step. This is when he dropped the mag. This is when he pulled the trigger. Those are all things where it's like, all right, great. You saw everything to the T and you can explain it.
Yep.
But there are people out there that are so stubborn that they want to be correct that they don't actually know what the hell their story was. Right.
And I don't think that's where this RO did it.
Not at all.
I failed also on my side too, because like you said, I didn't ask everything. He goes, you know what you did? I'm like, there was an extra shot. I don't know where it went. And that was, and he goes, well, it went over the berm. I'm like, okay. But I should have been asking more questions like, where was the gun when it did it? Were you able to see it? Where was it during, if I was manipulating a gun during the reload? Of course that's one, but I didn't know honestly at that point until I went back and watched the hat cam. Even watching the third person, your trained eye and sounds and everything, what third person, it didn't keep me on it until I had the hat cam. That's the first time I wore the hat cam in like 3 months.
Yeah. Good timing. Good timing, actually. So, I mean, this is a good point. This is one of the things, the reason I led into this story is because to me, this is important. First things first is you need to be more diligent of not so much what you're doing, but trying not to, and I don't mean you in general, I mean everyone. This is for everyone.
Yeah.
When things like this happen and you have controversial calls, I'll just call it controversial because that's what it is. You didn't DQ, he thought you DQ'd, or you didn't think you did and he thought you did, or however you want to call it. You have to be, as a shooter, you have to be, the emotion has to go away. You're fired up, your adrenaline's running. You just had another adult man tell you that you DQ'd when you're like, the hell I did. I know I did. And I was on it. Right. So, and again, you're shooting a newer gun, something you just switched over to. So it's a new platform for you. It's a little bit different than you're used to. So now you have that lack of confidence in, I know I didn't DQ, but now you're like, maybe I did because I am kind of getting used to this. So I don't know how everything feels when things happen, all this other stuff. Right. So again, it's all that added up to a DQ that you didn't earn, that you could have easily sat down and said, hey, listen, this isn't right, but you never argued or you never had that conversation. How about that? Yeah. I don't want it to sound like I want you to argue, any of you, because, that's not going to help anybody anyway.
It's a healthy discussion.
It's a discussion that has to be had. Does that make sense? You have to have that conversation with the RO, even for yourself, even if you are not going to win that conversation and win that argument. Okay. You have to have that conversation. There's all kinds of things that go on in this sport that you have to have that conversation. So for myself, I shot at Area 5 I guess it was 2 weeks now, and I lost third place, not because of this call. I had plenty of opportunity. I lost second place because I ended up on the last stage. It came down to the last stage. I ended up with a mic on a target that I know I shot a double on, and no, it wasn't a perfect double. I called the shot. I went down, looked at the hit. It was not a tear. It hit a paster and looked like a tear. Talked to the RO. He looked at it. I didn't go off on him. I didn't call him a dick. He was I think his name was Chris. Super great guy. He said, yeah, no problem. Let me look. He looked at it. He goes, I don't see it. I said, okay, cool. Could you call the range master? Range master comes out. I'm really bad with names. If I haven't shot with him a lot. I think his name was Gary. Very nice guy. Comes out, looks at it, goes, let me look at it, puts the overlay on it. One of the complaints I had about the way that was handled was, and it's really my only complaint, I asked them not to paste the target next to the one that had the mic on it. And I turned around and I was talking to the other RO, or wasn't paying attention, and they had pasted the target next to it. So here's a little quick tip for you guys. If you get a mic, do not paste the target that's closest to it. Leave it open. Don't touch it. Don't paste it. There's nothing, it doesn't cost any extra time to leave that target open. The reason why is so that you can compare the hole that you have that could be a double, or the hole that is missing, or the hole that you have on another target, because all the holes that you shoot from your bullets look almost the same on every hole, on every paper, right? So if I have something to compare it to, I can look at the other one and say, okay, look, you see how they're different? They're not the same holes. I did not win that conversation. I didn't yell at the guy. I didn't cuss at the guy, but I still disagree to this day that he is incorrect. He didn't put a second overlay on, but I didn't ask. And that's my fault. I should have been a little bit more like, hey, can you pull that target? Right? I should have gone into the conversation a little bit more, but I trusted him. You know, he's a great RO. He's done it for a long time. He wasn't trying to screw me, right? It's just, it was a tough call because of where the shot was. I mean, it was a 25-yard or a 20-yard partial target, right? But I know I hit the damn thing. That's the frustrating part. If I didn't call a good shot, I wouldn't even have had a question. It wouldn't even have been called. But this also leads me into this conversation. So again, like I said, the guy, Chris, was awesome. Like, we joked around and laughed. Even after I had the mic, I joked around with those guys because they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're being awesome. They're it's my fault that I didn't spread them out, I guess. You know what I mean? So as we're having this conversation, I walked up to him at the end because as the range master came over, he goes, yeah, he's questioning whether it's a double. He called a double. And I felt dirty when he said that. Right? Like, I felt dirty, like, oh, I'm not supposed to be calling for this double because it's for far away, or you know what I mean? Like, we have this thing now that if you call for a double, and I don't know any other word to call it, because that's what it would have been. It would have been two shots in one hole. If you call for a shot now, you're instantly looked at as a cheater. You're instantly looked at as trying to find something that's not there. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you've practiced, no matter what level you are, if you call for a double now, it feels like there's this, I don't know, this thing that makes you feel dirty, right? Like they're trying to call you a cheater, because you hear so many people online talking shit about everybody who calls doubles that actually didn't earn one, right? I don't know. I've shot a lot of doubles. I really have. Like, I mean, legitimate, like, I've seen them go in the paper. The RO's watching and go, man, if I didn't see the paper, it wouldn't have been a double. That's what you're supposed to do, right? The more you practice, the better you get. You're supposed to be able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that's a normal thing, right? It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen quite a bit in our sport. So to sit there and feel like, oh, I shouldn't have asked for that. I thought I'd bring that up. I thought that was an interesting thing at the match, that I was just like, wow, why do I feel shitty that I'm calling for this hit? Right? Like,
and if it's somebody that calls, to me, this is just my perception. If somebody calls for a double every once in a while and stuff like that, okay, that's within our right. But it's when you get the reputation of at locals, at everything else, when you see this person that they're going to try to range lawyer themselves out of a mic into a double. That's where I think that's where the perception comes in, and there's that gray line in there because the rumors and the conversations start to happen about XYZ did this at Area 5, they did this at Area 6, and all this stuff. But it's part of the sport.
I mean, at the end of the day, man, you have to live with yourself, right?
Yep.
I'm not cheating. I don't need to cheat. I have been called a cheater since the day I started in this sport because I tried hard and I worked hard and I got better really fast. And people called me cheaters constantly. I mean, I've had assholes telling people that I would adjust the timer while I was the RO, then hand someone the timer. Then when I knew I was getting ready to finish, I'd run away from the timer. I mean, who comes up with this shit? Like, these people are idiots. Right? This is the shit you get in this sport. You get people that make stuff up about other people, and now you have to deal with it. Right? So this is the stuff that, like, I guess the reason I brought this up in general was just to tell people, don't be afraid if you made that call, if you called that good hit, ask for it. The worst thing that happens is that the RO he's supposed to anyway, should get the overlay out and look at it. If he knows how to be an RO, he's going to put the overlay on it and go, this one's a little bigger than it's supposed to be. Then look at the angle that it was shot at. That's important. Look to see if he shot a wall. Do what you're supposed to do as an RO so that the shooter has zero options. You see what I'm saying? It's the ROs are there to make the correct call. Now, that being said, don't be a dick as a shooter and call for doubles when you didn't come close. Right? I mean, listen, I've seen people shoot doubles on targets that you're like, there's no way he can do that. It happens. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes the guy just lined up two really excellent shots. I mean, this sport there's no perfect, right? So, I mean, you can shoot a double. I don't know how many times I shot doubles with PCC. I mean, Jesus, man, I was getting to the point where I was like, I need to open this up a little bit, because I would get calls that I'm like, no, I'm telling you. And they were like, oh, if I wouldn't have seen that, I wouldn't have called it. I watched it hit it. I mean, it's like, it can happen. Open guns. I've shot a lot of doubles with opens. I remember showing a video to one of the guys that was like, no way, that's definitely a mic. I showed him the video, and thank God that video was tight enough to the target. You could see it. And he goes, I'll be damned, dude. That was a damn double. I said, I told you, dude. I was like, I wasn't even that far from the target. It was a close target. So it does happen. But I thought I'd bring it up because I feel like your DQ is a good example. Don't be afraid to question the call, right? Yep. Do it respectfully. Obviously, don't be a dick. That's a big thing. That's a big problem in our sport. We have people that don't do it the right way. So it makes other people, oh, I don't want to be argumentative. Or listen, Area 5, a good example. And this is not a bash on Area 5 match, because the match was awesome. The ROs were great. Just a few little examples of things where our shooters didn't want to argue. I'll just say argue. They didn't want to have that conversation. So they were real big on a couple of stages where if you leaned on the wall, if you touched the wall, if you supported yourself with the wall, you got procedurals. So the problem is that definition should be, you are able to touch the wall, but if you gain support for a wall that's outside of the shooting area, you got procedurals. So one of the guys that are good shooters, they were a grandmaster and they were trying to win the match, grabbed the wall on one of the stages and used it for support. So he got a procedural for each shot. I think it was 2 procedurals. Definitely cost them the match because of that call, but it was the correct call. He called the RO. He called the range master over afterwards. The range master came over and said, yep, this is a call that we were worried about. So we made sure we moved the walls out of the shooting area. And yes, if you grabbed it and held onto it and leaned on it, it's 100% procedural. And it was the right call. There wasn't an argument. There should have never been an argument, which for him, he wasn't arguing. He just wanted to know what the right call was. So again, having that conversation. He didn't cuss. He didn't yell. It was just nice, clean, easy conversation. Got his answer. That was it. One of the guys on my squad that shot was left-handed. He ran to the right-hand side and didn't touch the wall at all, right? So he's left-handed going on the hard lean and doesn't touch the wall. No call. He goes to the left-hand side where his gun is way outside of the wall, okay? Way outside the wall. He's left-handed. That means if he leans left, it's going to be an easier lean. He touched the wall, didn't brace it, he literally just touched it on his first bullet and fell out of bounds on his second bullet. They gave him a procedural because he touched the wall. That is an incorrect call. He did not support himself on that wall at all. Here's the problem. He didn't want to argue it. He did not want to say, hey, listen, that's an improper call. Or listen, can I get a clarification? Because all I did was touch it and, have the conversation with the RO or the range master. He kept the procedurals. Yep. I was like, I had a good 10-minute conversation with him afterwards. We took lunch, I think, right after that stage. And I said, look, if it was me, I would be calling the range master over right now before anyone else shoots that stage. He was one of our last shooters too. So I don't even think anybody shot after him. So I was like, I would have had that conversation. He didn't want to have it. He was like, no, I'm good, man. I don't want to have that conversation. I said, okay, cool. But here's what the rule is. If you know the rule, it's not really an argument. This is what I did. This is what he saw. Somewhere in the middle there, that gets worked out, right? Whether it's they give him the call or don't give him the call. So
I've been to matches. I think George is one of them. If you pay attention, they will put a fault line touching the walls to eliminate the need for those calls. Even if the wall is way out of bounds, there's a fault line touching that wall.
They had some, so there was that same stage, they had a wall that was really high. And if you were tall, you could shoot over the top of it, but it was still tough, right? Like the fault line, but they moved everything away from the fault line so you couldn't touch it. I'm not sure why they did that. I felt like it gave a lot of opportunities for traps, right? It gave a lot of opportunities to trap the shooters into penalties. Now, if you're not paying attention to that and you're not thinking of that, like when you're leaning over the top of that wall, you're getting a penalty, like, because you're touching the wall now. And if you're over the top of the wall, there's really no way not to gain support. You have to, because it's too low. Unless you're holding the gun in the air and you're not actually holding your normal shooting form, then you would definitely get procedurals for that. So they brought a pallet out for that stage, which was mainly for short people, right? It ended up to where everybody used the pallet towards the second half of the match because I think they were giving penalties out for using that wall. And I took it away I walked that stage about 5 or 6 times with and without. So I took it off, put it on, took it off, put it on. And then after catching word or hearing about the procedurals for touching that wall, going around the hard leans, I was like, well, shit, they can give me a procedural for going over the top of the wall as well. I never even thought of that at first. So I ended up leaving it in so I wouldn't touch it either way. But it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, that's a setup to have to make controversial calls as a range officer. And it wasn't, I don't think obviously they didn't do it on purpose, right? Like they didn't do it on purpose. Well, I mean, obviously they did because they moved it away, but I don't think they thought of it as being an issue. Right. Yeah. It definitely wasn't in the stage briefing. No one mentioned it in the stage briefing. Like, hey guys, the walls are all outside of the shooting area. That was never mentioned. So no one really knew until you got the procedurals what you did. So it was interesting, man. It was an interesting stage. I think that stage, getting those kind of procedurals like that cost you a match without you even really realizing, I think they need to look at that rule a little bit. I think there's a little bit too much gray area, in that state, like to give that penalty. Like I said, the guy that we shot with, he brushed it. He didn't even, he was on there for, I'd be surprised if he even pulled the trigger when he was touching that wall. I mean, he brushed it. He didn't even, there's no way he gained support. He was falling out of bounds. So, he's going away from the wall, not towards the wall. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. But then the other guy who grabbed the hold of it with his hand. Okay. Yeah. That's 100% support, yeah. Right? Like, I'm like, let's see, there's 100% and a brush and you got the same penalty. I don't understand that. Right. But again, it's, not my call. I would have argued for that conversation and we would have had that conversation if they would have pulled that on me. But it's just, I just thought I'd bring that up because I feel like there's a lot of people that aren't willing to make that argument or I'll just say stand up for yourself. right? It's not an argument. Just
Yeah.
know the rule that you need to know, even if you have to go look it up, right? Even if you have to look it up, you still need to argue that, that at least have that talk, right? Because it could cost you. So now that you got DQ'd, that cost you an entire match because that was your first stage and you got DQ'd and it wasn't a DQ. You ended up losing an entire day of training.
Yep. 11 shots in.
So, so what did you learn from that the most?
Have the respective conversation and a better understanding of exactly what you're doing when you're shooting. So you then can have that conversation, because in my head, it was a little bit gray and I had to rely on somebody that's supposed to be watching it, but didn't maybe have the best vantage point when it's going on. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a conversation about it. Now, if you agree, don't disagree, that's where the stuff can come out of it, but you've got to have that conversation. And if something like that happens again, definitely I'm having the conversation.
Yeah. I think, I think that's the biggest thing from it, brother, is that you take from that conversation, or that you have that conversation. That's it. That's all you needed to do, is have the conversation, whether it goes your way or not. At least you had the conversation.
And the understanding, I mean, I'm a CRO, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm one of these guys that has a photographic memory that can tell you what 8.2.1.3 is. I don't even know if there is one, but exactly what it is. But that's also why we all have our nice smartphones with the app on it to go look at it, because when you take your RO, your CRO exam, they teach you how to look at that stuff. So we should have been able, if there's any questions, you should be able to, especially if you're an RO, CRO, to quickly reference that app and figure out where it was. Like there's a guy at the Spartanburg match, they have plates there. The plates that just knock off, it was an 8-inch plate, I think it was, that goes on top of a rebar stand. It spun sideways.
That's a hit.
Huh?
That's a hit.
Actually, it's nothing. It's a reshoot.
Well, because it has to fall. Right. So that's a range malfunction. Okay. Yeah. So like steel knockdown matches, if it turns sideways, they consider that a hit. Yes. But that's not a steel knockdown match. That's an actual USPSA rule. Yeah.
So like this, you're good. Off, you're good. Like this, if you know the rule, and you can test it, it's a reshoot. You got a mic.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we all knew it after he shot the stage, but and it wasn't even in our squad. We just heard about it, and we looked it up while we were shooting, so we knew on that stage what the rule was. But
yeah, I mean that, dude. But so that, I mean, that's a good example of knowing the rules, but you don't need to know all the rules. No, right? I think a lot of people, you need to know the rules that are going to affect you, right? So like a good example is, I would have never thought about the steel being turned sideways during that match, right? Like before the match. But if it happens to me during a stage, I'm going to look it up so that I can go back and go, hey, here's the rule. Reshoot, range malfunction, whatever, even if you don't know the rule. But I think a lot of people just accept, because someone says they're an RO or they say they're a CRO, that they know the rules. This is not true. I know range masters like that work nationals that don't know all the rules. It's how it works. They're not going to know all the rules unless you experience that rule firsthand. I think you're not going to have it all, right? Even if you read the rule book a million times, okay? We're human beings. We have a lot of shit going on in life outside of the shooting. So if someone came to ask me a rule that I already know, I'd be like, I better look first just to make sure I'm interpreting this correct. I've read rules coming out of the rule book, and I'm like, there's a lot of gray area in that, depending on what lawyer of USPSA is reading this to me, right? So again, it's one of those things where it's, a good example is penetration on a target, right? I shot a drop turner once that I split the target, right? But it rode down halfway through the target with nothing, just a blue skid mark, or a skid mark from the bullet. And then it poked a hole through the side and then exited back out. Right. Mm-hmm. And it was you could clearly see daylight on the other side. I had 2 mics on that target. I had 2 no penalty mics because it was a disappearing target. And I said, okay. And then they read the rule. And I just accepted it because I didn't know shit. I was still new. And then they read the rule and I was like, yeah, but it says you have to penetrate the target. I'm pretty sure that I can see light through here. So I got 2 mics on it. No big deals. 2 no penalty mics. And it was a crazy array. I mean, I went for a crazy, like I shouldn't even have hit the target. That's how lucky, that's how fast this shit was. So then I sent Troy, actually, I posted it and talked about, the mics or whatever it was. And he had actually responded, said, no, that's a hit. Those are hits. So then I learned that rule. But if I would not have shot that, if I would have not seen that in person, would I have ever have experienced that rule? Hell no, I'm not looking that up, right? Like we don't see that a whole lot. So you just have to learn as you go along and understand that not everybody who is a CRO or an RO knows the rules. It's how it works. It's okay. It's not, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that you get the rules out and you check it. That's all.
Yep.
I mean,
there are some ROs and people that can quote you like that.
I agree.
And then I go look at them, I'm like, wow, you were right. But there's other people like you and me that know everything. We know how to reference it quickly,
right?
But I can't tell you what it is.
I know what I need to know for what I deal with 90% of the time.
Yep.
Right. A good one is standing or the 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or standing outside the shooting area.
Yeah.
Pretty simple, right? Like I've dealt with this for 3 years out of the 4 years I've been shooting. If you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, you are technically out of bounds. Unless the stage briefing says completely out of bounds, you are allowed to stand with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Yep. It's not gaming, guys. It's following the rules. They write the rules. You follow what they write, period. I've had this conversation, I can't tell you how many times, with very high-end range masters in our sport that wanted to argue that rule with me. So it's just, you have to know the rules that you have to know, period, right? So if it says completely out of bounds, you're completely out of bounds. They've changed some of the rules recently for wrist below belt. Right now, it's instead of hands relaxed, it's wrist below belt. Why? Because not everyone stands the same, right? I mean, what is relaxed? Some guy stands here with his shoulders slumped down, or you have another guy who's actually got his shoulders back. Is he relaxed because he doesn't just go into a noodle position? I mean, so it's try to simplify that stuff, but know the rules you need to know, right? It's really that simple.
And I know they can't because it's a classifier, but there's some classifiers that, hey, say hands relaxed at side. We shot one this last week, and I'm like, nobody practices that anymore. It's just like, and every time I RO like 3 or 4 people on that stage, I'm like, hands relaxed at side. There are no at your side.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but listen, it's the same thing. It's basically wrist below belt is the go-to thing now. So that, I mean, I think some of the changes that they made recently are good. When it comes to that, I mean, I've never been a big equipment guy, like, having the equipment in one position. I mean, just put it where you need to have it legally and learn it, right? I do like that they changed some of that stuff for the ROs, because it is kind of hard to know where, you have to walk up to somebody's hip bone, and, not everybody knows that, and then you're over there, you're kind of screwing around with the guy, constantly asking, hey man, let me see where your hip is, move your shirt. And, it's just kind of time consuming.
Anywhere was nice. That was
it is. It is. You know what, dude? I actually went back. I actually put my my mags pouches. I've always had the gun, other than the open gun, because it's impossible to draw the open gun from back by your hip because it angles so much. But I actually put my mag pouches back to my hips.
Yep, so I never moved mine. I moved them up maybe an inch or two, but nothing major, just enough to be comfortable. But I didn't want to, because that's where I've learned to index, and we all know when you have years of habits, you're not going to break it.
Well, one of the reasons I moved it was because I wanted to shoot IPSC, and they haven't changed their rules to match ours. So I mean, there's really no continuity with those between the two. So
you're doing the IPSC match in September, right?
Yeah, I think it's Pan American Games still. Man, I'll tell you, you want to talk about a match that's hard to get information on, dude. Like, I mean, I paid for that over a year ago. It got moved to this year. I lost last year because obviously with the pandemic shit, maybe it's been 2 years, but I paid money for that. And I'm like, what are the dates? When is the match? And then it pops up. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's a good thing that someone let me know. It's like, there's no emails coming through. It's really weird. Like, it's not the same as, USPSA. But I'm not sure how. I think Frank's got that from Florida, from the Universal Shooting Academy. So I'm not sure how that works. I have a buddy that I call every once in a while. I'm like, hey man, like what's going on with this match? Is it still on? Like, I'm not even sure what squad I'm on, what dates I shoot. I just have it blocked off for almost a full week because that's how long the match goes. I don't know what that means, right? Am I shooting the whole week? Am I shooting 2 days, 3 days? I don't know what the hell's going on. So I've got to find out because
it's Georgia Nats and then that, right?
Dude, it's crazy. And then right after that, I have another match. I'm trying to think what I have. So I have Area 8 first. I have Area 8 before that. So first match is Area 8, which is on the 26th, 27th, 28th, kind of that weekend of August. Then Georgia, the very next weekend. Then Optics Nationals. Then the Pan American Games on the 14th through the 20th. That'll tell you how long I blocked it out from the 14th to the 21st. I have no freaking clue when the match actually is. I know it ends on the 21st, which is good because I leave on the 22nd to go to Oklahoma for Area 4. So, and then after that, I have the South Carolina class on the 1st of October 1st. Then I have the 1 weekend off. Then I go to Open Nationals the very next weekend. Then I have the very next weekend after that, PCC Nationals, and then I have a class in Texas. Geez. And then my buddy's wedding, who is I finally non-shooting thing. And then I'm going to try to, I don't think we're going to do it. I just don't think we have, I think I'm going to be dead, but I was thinking about putting a big match on this year around November 12th and the 13th, but I don't think it's going to happen. I have a class in California scheduled from the 29th and the 30th in November. And then I have, what's that?
Is that Thanksgiving weekend?
I think so. No, it's a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
Okay.
So they said they have better opportunities during the week to do classes there than the weekends. Weekends are usually really tough for them because they fill up with shooting or whatever it is, obviously.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then I have a class that I scheduled for the 10th and 11th of December here in Florida for myself for, do a class here at home. So. But yeah, man, I think I got a pretty full year right now. So the end of this year is going to be very crazy. But
when are you picking up your open gun and your PCC after CO Nats?
Yeah, so as soon as Optics Nationals is over, I have the Pan American Games. And I think, let's just look, because that's a good point. I have not really scheduled that out in my head.
I was like, you're going to be go shoot 2 Nats right after. I know you're really focused on CO, so I know it's not before that. But
so honestly, I might just jump right into it as soon as I get home from Optics Nationals, bro. I might literally pick it up that week, do a bunch of dry fire, get a thing of practice, and then go to the Pan American Games shooting open. Because right after that, I have Area 4. Which I'd really like to shoot with an open gun because right after Area 4, I have Open Nationals in 3 weeks after that. So, I mean, what time do I have to really dial that back together?
Yeah, right after CO, you got to.
I will tell you that thanks to switching my ammo to 147 grain, I feel so much better going back and forth to the open gun. Because now, even though the Optics gun isn't as fast, I visually have the same vision, like the view, right? My view's the same now that I switched to 147s. It's been a big difference so I don't really talk a lot. I don't really switch a lot of stuff around with my equipment. I mean, once I find something that works, I always use it. So I shoot I was shooting 125 grain brass monkey bullets. Amazing product. So I shot that for, over a year. And I was like, man, I love the 125s. I love the snappiness. Like I wanted that aggressive feeling. Mm-hmm. So I switched to the open for I don't even know how long I shot open, 2-3 months, maybe, right? Whatever it was. So after that is when I realized how much I wasn't seeing with the carry optics gun. Like, and I don't want to say I was guessing, but a lot of predictive shooting of when to pull the trigger. Like I knew when to pull the trigger, like what it looked like to get the A's, right? So like when it would land, bang, when it would land, bang, when it would land, bang. But it was so violent. Like it was like just like jarring. It felt like open when you don't hold the gun, right? Like, or if you were to take your glasses off and like bring your comp close to your face and start shooting, it's like that blast of air feeling. That's kind of what I was like. All of a sudden I walked away from that open gun. I was like, holy shit, I can't, like, I'm really struggling seeing this. Like this is a lot faster than I've been used to after the open gun. So when I did that, I was like, all right, this is my opportunity now. At the beginning of the year, I'm going to switch to 147s and try them. And I borrowed a buddy's 147 grain ammo once. I tried 100 rounds from him. We shoot the same load, shoots the same bullets I shoot, everything, but obviously the weight was different. So I was like, all right, man, yeah, I'll try it. I didn't notice a difference at first, right? Like, I mean, 100 rounds, what the hell's 100 rounds? That's nothing. Like that's warm up for me in a lot of times, right? So I would say, so I called up Jason from Brass Monkey Bullets. I said, listen, man, I'm going to put an order in for 147. I got a bunch of 125s. I'm going to order some 147s. Send me, 10,000 rounds. And if I didn't need them, I have other people that will take them, right? Like I can sell them, whatever. So, or hell, Jason and I are really good friends. So, and he sponsors me. So if I had to, I would meet him someday, be like, hey bro, let's trade these out. They're still in the box. I can't use them or whatever. So I go and I shoot for, oh man, let me see. I'm trying to think how long it took me before I really was like, okay, I would say probably 3 sessions. So maybe a month of shooting them, maybe 2 months of shooting those bullets. And the accuracy that I've seen since I switched to 147s is stupid, like stupid. Now I'm a better shooter, obviously, than before. I've learned a lot this year, but I just walked away from a match and I had 95 alphas and 12 Charlie. So I'm like, that was good. And I shot my speed, right? Like I wasn't slow. I was there at the top like I was supposed to be, but I was like, holy shit. Like, I guess I'm seeing this, like it's there, right? Like I'm feeling good. And I was sick. I'm still sick a little bit, but I was sick during that match. So I was like, oh, like even without feeling great, the accuracy was still there, right? Like I'm seeing things. I'm seeing that the gun's just sitting so much calmer. So I shot 125s right after this practice. I have some 125s left over. So what's that?
You can tell, definitely tell.
Oh my God. I was like, holy shit, hold on. Like it was a big difference. Like where I really noticed it was when I wasn't ripping, but when I went 1, 2, and the second shot, I could feel the gun like fight, like snap me. And I was like, whoa, like, all right. Okay, I got it. Like this is what I was dealing with on transitions, on everything. I really noticed the difference. So I was like, oh, okay. I definitely like my 147s and I'll be there for a while. So
if you really want to get spoiled, go get I don't think Brass Monkey makes them, but Extreme makes a 165.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not doing that. So there is a point where it is not good, right? So 165s, I feel like I'm waiting on the gun. I'm gonna tell you right now, because 147s, one of the reasons I switched, I started off with 135s many, 4 years ago when I first started. The reason I started with 135s is because I was told, like, man, 125s are really snappy. 147s are slower. You're waiting. Well, bullshit. Like you're really not, especially when you first start, you don't have a clue what it feels like. You really don't. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, You just don't know what it feels like because you don't have enough experience behind the firearm to know. Like, yeah, you could say, all right, cool. Like the 147 is slow. But what I mean is it actually slow? Are you waiting on the firearm to land? Right. I mean, that's what you should be looking at when you switch equipment. Are you waiting for the gun to be back in battery to pull the trigger? Right. So with 125s, I never waited. With 147s, I've never waited. But here's the thing with the 147s, because it's calmer, I can actually shoot faster. Not because I'm shooting faster splits, but because I can shoot sooner. The gun, I can see it sooner, right? Not only can I see it sooner because it's not going crazy and just flashing in front of my eye, but now that it's calm, I can see the hits. Like I can see I'm like so much more target focused than I've ever been. Like I'm picking that spot and I'm like, there it is. There it is. With the 125, because I had to keep the speed up and the gun was so violent, I was really just, it's there. It's there. I never really could see the calm, like the glass is vibrating. Everything's just going crazy in front of me. So that's been the biggest change in equipment this year for me has been the 147s with carry optics. And my accuracy is just really exploded. I've been walking off stages with 3 Charlies. Like today, like yesterday, I walked off. On Sunday, I walked away from some of the stages and I was like, 2 Charlie? That's awesome. Like, and I'm like, it was that target right there and that target right there. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, some bitch, right? Like that's a level that I've never been at and that I'm starting to see. And it's starting to pay off in matches. You know, I'm seeing it in my results in matches and things like that. But so one of the reasons why I was out testing ammo or why I was out practicing is because, yeah, baby, the new rival is in the hands. So I want to say thank you to Nils for making me spend more money. You big jerk.
It's a whole $350 for a rival. Come on.
No, it's not. It's $600, dude. I hate to tell you.
I'm just talking shit.
But I want to thank him for or unthank him because he's a jerk. Because he's such a nice guy, dude. I really like talking to him. I don't like losing to him, but we talked a little bit at Area 5, and it was cool because it was funny because he's like, we were over there like 2 kids like showing each other the firearms at the safe table. He's like, oh, let me see yours. And I'm like, oh, let me see yours. And it was just like, I'm like, what the hell is going? Like, if anybody's watching, this is so weird. But I
do everything. But
yeah. But I picked up his rival, and having the conversation with him. The guns are pretty close to identical. Like the TP9 SFX is, I still love that gun. Like I'm gonna tell you, I'm not buying the rival because the TP9 SFX isn't a great pistol. I picked up the rival because of just a few things. The trigger was a big one. It's a stock trigger. I don't have to touch it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I'll show you, I don't know how well it'll come up on camera, but the one thing that Canik has done, and you can kind of see it here, they did a nice, well, let me just switch the focus here. I want to see if you can get it this way. There we go. So right here,
I still can't see, but
they gave me a Magwell.
Right?
They gave me a mini Magwell. That was really the only thing that I would have liked out of the TP9 SFX that they didn't have. But I will tell you, after going to open and then coming back to carry optics, open and limited guns are bullshit. Like they really make you suck. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like I really enjoyed shooting open, but you lose a lot of fundamentals when you shoot guns with big giant magwells. So when I went back to the Canik, I really had to focus back down on those fundamentals of reloads because I didn't have that big ass giant magwell to slap to reload in. So, I think it's funny. I think a lot of people complain about or I shouldn't say complain, but a lot of people, when they switch back to other guns, are like, oh man, I suck. It's like, no, dude, it's just that you forgot those fundamentals from the other gun, right? Yeah. You change from one pistol to another pistol that don't have the same features. They're a little bit different, sometimes better, sometimes worse. So for me, with the rival, I made an upgrade, right? Like all the things that I don't have on the TP9 SFX, I have now in the rival. So that was the only reason I changed. Honestly, I didn't need a new one, right? I didn't need a new one. I just changed for those little benefits. So I'll kind of segue a little bit into that. And it's kind of something that I've been, talking about quite a bit with you. If you're going to change equipment, you better damn well believe that that equipment is an improvement.
Mm-hmm.
If that equipment is not an improvement, okay, and there's not a reason to truly switch over, like anybody who shoots a striker fire and decides to go to a double action gun, okay,
what you're talking about here.
I don't either. I'm just saying, you better have a good reason to switch to that firearm, whether there's weight, better mags, better magwell, it's more accurate, whatever it is, whatever your reason, you should have it should be better than what you already shoot.
Well, yeah, and it was. I'm not saying my timing was good because I can track the dot better on the CZ, the Shadow 2 versus the Legion, and it's just a better balanced gun in my hand. Should I have done it in the middle of summer, like 4 months out from Nats? Probably not. I probably should have waited till after Nats, but live and learn.
I don't know anybody who would have told you that either. I mean, it's crazy.
You know me, I've got a hard head. Once I get in my mind, I go.
I don't know any, and I want to thank Tyler for ruining you again and making you switch pistols again.
Nobody made.
So I mean, I'll bring it up because it's not a bad thing, right? It's just timing. You got to think about what your timing is when you make a decision to make those switches. That's why off seasons are so important. A lot of people don't take those off seasons to do those changes and those tries and change things out. They want to do it in the middle of the season. Why? Because that's when we shoot.
Yep. And I knew that, but I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. I'm like, it's a carry optics gun to a carry optics gun. I underestimated the DASA trigger because I switched striker fires before and it wasn't a big deal.
Oh, striker is a striker though. Right. Striker. That's totally different.
But the DASA was a difference. And I'm still, even at the beginning of my training session yesterday, we found that I'm still flinching a little bit on the DA. I'm like, so that would explain a lot why I get low Charlies / deltas. I'm like, because I'm still flinching on that. We worked it out, but it's something that I didn't have with the striker fire. I didn't have that low left hit. It was always in the low A or in the A zone.
Have you thought about going back?
Yeah, I did, but I don't think I'm going to.
Why? Because you feel like that I would be right?
No, I don't want to. I think I would go back. We've got 3-4 weeks now.
Yeah, it's too late now, dude.
I know. Let's go back to relearn everything again, and I'm in the same position because then right after that, I'm going back. I'm just like, take my lumps now. This Nats, I want to do as well as I can at this Nats, but this Nats for me is also a learning experience for me.
I think you have the right mindset, bro.
Yeah, because I mean, if I felt I could go out there and kick ass in B class, I probably wouldn't have ever made the change. But I'm going with, I want to go to Nats. I want to shoot for 3 days. I want to learn what it is. When I go back next year, whatever class I am, I want to be top 5. That's my goal.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we'll talk about it because I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit tonight. Craig didn't, obviously he's not coming back on because his internet doesn't work, but he made a good joke. I was able to make fun of him a little bit and he couldn't fight back. So that was kind of awesome. But when his internet didn't work, but we talked about this, I guess a month ago. It's probably been a month since we had the podcast. And the plan was that you were going to train this weekend, this many weekends. You had, dry fire practice, all these things. And then I don't know if we talked about that originally, but you were able to get down here to Florida and we practiced together.
Yeah, I don't think that was in the cards. And
so, no. Yeah, you came down and you spent some time with some family and we actually got to train together. So what do you think of the practice, dude? Like, how different was my practice versus the way you practice?
Well, when Tyler and I go out and practice, we do a lot of the same, but there's also a different level and a different viewpoint that you bring that Tyler and I don't have. We don't have it where we can see it and pick it out. And we've changed our training, especially for me. going to a lot of setting up mock stages and stuff like that, because that's where I got to put the effort in, and I need to let everything else come to me.
So I'm glad you brought that up, but go ahead, finish. But I'm glad you brought that up.
I don't remember what I was going to say. You interrupted so rudely.
Oh, well, good. All right. Well, good. Because I wanted to interrupt because I don't want to get past that point. So I used to run stages all of the time. And I got to the point where I was like, man, you know, I'll never forget the conversation. I shot against Max Leograndis. I had just made Grandmaster. It was Area 6. 3 years ago, I think, yeah, it was my second year of shooting. I made Grandmaster and he came to Area 6, which was unusual because he didn't usually come to Area 6, right? So I had my opportunity to shoot against him. And my training at that point was just run stages, right? All I did was shoot stages. When I practiced shooting stages. And I remember him beating me. I think it was like 75 points or something. And I beat him on a few stages, you know, so like, I'm thinking, all right, man, cool. I'm getting better or whatever. So I remember sitting down at the end and asking him like, hey man, like, how do you practice? Like, do you shoot stages? He goes, not at all. He goes, I don't do any stages. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I don't shoot any stages at all. So my training changed from that point on. I never shot stages ever again. Let me rephrase that. The next year of my training was 0 stage running. I just ran drills, practiced moving and shooting in drill scenarios, and I got better, right? I got a lot better. But I shot every weekend at matches, right? I shot locals. I shot any kind of majors. And we had a lot of level 2s here in Florida at the time. We used to shoot a lot of level 2s until the ammo crisis or whatever you want to call it, COVID bullshit. So I remember sitting down and going, man, you know, like, I don't need to shoot stages anymore. It's pointless. Don't shoot stages. Don't shoot stages. It's not good. And he made a good point. All you're doing is chasing the high hit factor. And he's correct, right? I used to chase the high hit factor. And then I realized one of the reasons I got good as fast as I did was because I shot a lot of stages at practice. And this is one of the things I brought up to you after it was this weekend. I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
At this point where you are, you need to shoot stages and not do a lot of drills. Let me rephrase that. You need drills, but you need a lot more stage planning or stage running and shooting stages, because that's where you're failing. You're not failing at stand and shoot drills. You're not failing at practice. You're failing at matches, which is what we're doing this for, right? If you want to be a great shooter in USPSA, you have to do USPSA shit. You can't just go, okay, cool, I'm going to stand here and shoot some stuff. We don't stand anywhere unless we're doing classifiers, right?
Yep.
The majority of our shooting is on the move or shooting some stuff and then moving, or entering, shooting some stuff and then leaving. We don't do a lot of standing and shooting stuff for long. How about that, right? There are sections, obviously, that you have to do that. So what do you need practice with in your shooting? If you want to become a better stage runner, practice shooting stages. Now, this is the thing that I would change in my shooting from when I started. I don't care about hit factors.
No, I mean,
I honestly don't care about splits. I care about how I'm shooting the stage. Am I smooth? Am I remembering all the targets? Am I being aggressive at all times? Like, am I always attacking? I'm looking to become a better USPSA shooter for stages, not just with my gun. Yes, gun skills matter, fundamentals matter. Sometimes when I have these conversations out loud, I feel like people just pick them apart and go, oh, look, he's not talking about fundamental. No, bullshit. Fundamentals are everything in this game. I teach the fundamentals at speed because that's what we do, right? Fundamentals, slow fundamentals are just slow fundamentals. You're not going to get faster. You have to go faster to win in this game, period. Time matters. It really does. So I'm looking at your training in general, and I'm like, dude, your training isn't filling the hole of your weakness, right? And your weakness right now is stage planning, or not even stage planning. It's execution.
it's the not execution even, it's the effort and getting out of my freaking turtle,
which is execution, dude. That's execution. No, that is execution. So here's the thing. When you walk a stage, you don't walk the stage and go, I'm going to go slow. You walk the stage like, all right, cool. I'm going to crush this. I'm going to go faster. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then when the beep goes off, you go brakes.
Yep, turtle zone.
Right. And not just you, dude. This is every single person I see. Even guys that are really good, even grandmasters and masters and A-class shooters and everybody at the top, I still see them not push when they should or could. Right now, obviously not all of them, but you see it a lot. Just because there's a guy with a G next to his name doesn't mean he crushes it. Doesn't mean he pushes, right?
Classifiers.
Damn right. So again, the reason I brought this up is because to kind of get this out there, out in the open, so people understand. You have to know what the holes are in your game. You have to understand that if you're going to matches and you're getting your ass kicked at matches and you're not fast, maybe you're not training properly. Maybe it's not your skills. Maybe it's you don't practice what you need to practice. And stage running and running stages is a huge part of our sport. It is the sport.
Oh, yeah.
So if you choose to just do a bunch of stand and shoot drills and okay, cool, I'm going to work on my gun skills, but you don't ever actually work on running stages, how the hell do you get better at running stages? Go to a local every once in a while? Well, that's most locals for most people is one. They got 3 weeks of nothing in between that.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm lucky here, and I think you have the availability of equal, if not better, because I can shoot 4 outdoor and 1 indoor in a month on Saturdays.
So I mean, all right. So
wanted to travel, I could go down to Atlanta and do some on Sundays.
So let's talk about this because I just brought this up to you as well. I even told you stop going to these matches. Stop going to these bullshit matches. Some of these matches that I've watched you go to aren't work for you. They're not good because you don't get a second crack at it. You don't get a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth crack at it. You'd be better off setting up one stage at home, running that sumbitch over and over and over again. If you get a dozen runs out of just that one stage, you're going to get a dozen chances at fixing things, learning, re-educating yourself on, okay, I didn't go as fast here, but I got better hits here. Okay. Oh, the next time I see this kind of section, I know that I don't need to go as fast. I need better hits here, but it's going to speed up all this over here. You know what I mean? There's areas that as you run stages and you start to do this and you start to understand there's sections and pockets that don't always require full speed. Yeah. Then there's times when full speed is a necessity or you get your ass kicked on the stage, right? And that's the part that most people they struggle to see. Why? Because they get one shot at a stage when they go to a match. So they're not actually getting that second, third, fourth, and fifth run. I'll give you an example of, and not everybody gets the opportunity to do this, but I do because I run a match. And I don't even care if I've been at local matches. And before I walked away from the match, I went to the range master and said, hey, do you mind if I run that stage again before it gets torn down? I just need one run. I don't even care. I'm not scoring it. I just want to run that stage again. How many people do you know ask that question? This many?
Yeah, that zero, but I've done it for my own stages. Like if it's the last one of the day and I just screwed it up, I'm like, hey guys, I'm
running this again.
Here, I'm running it.
Right.
But I'm the match director and they look at me, I'm like, yeah.
But that's the difference in a winner and a champion, right? Or a guy who just shoots and a champion. Well, that guy is going to go for that extra effort to get better. Right.
And I did that very same thing. I know we started our outlaw hit factor scoring match, and I totally hosed out one I sent you as a drill.
Yep.
Because I was trying to do too much at once.
Yep.
I went back, and because that was our last stage, and old Todd would have just walked away. I was like, hey guys, somebody throw the timer on. Don't score it or anything. I just want to beat my time.
Yep.
And I want to knock 8 seconds off of it.
Yep.
And I'm just like,
dude, it just happened to me. I just had this happen. This match, I was the end of the day. I was really tired. I didn't feel good. I shot a stage and I made a mistake, right? I actually, the funny part is the mistake I made was because I was too fast. I went to reload and I went so fast to the mag that I actually reloaded the old mag that was at the bottom of the gun and pushed it back in.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, what the? And I watching this in slow motion, because even though it wasn't in slow motion, I'm watching it hit and I go, oh, I'm screwed, and push it back in. And I'm about a step away. And I'm like, shit. And you do the old flipper and all this thing. So, right. And I'm like, what the? And so I shoot, get up to the front, and there's big, giant, like huge pumpkins. And I'm like, yeah, big steel. And I just start slinging rounds. So I hit the first one, hit the second one, and then I got to shoot like this one to the right that I had a kind of little bit of a lean. And I went miss, paper, hit it again. I was like, oh my God, it was terrible. So I ran it again after we were done. But before I walked away from that stage, I ran it again for no score. I don't need the score. It didn't matter. The score I had originally was the real run. So I ran it again, crushed it by 2 seconds, did the same exact damn thing on the reload though. If I would not have, but you know what's funny about it? It wasn't the reload that even though I did it, this time I stopped myself, right? I stopped myself from reloading, got rid of the mag, finished, but I calmed down as I went to the front this time. I didn't try to make up that time. So you know what that proved to me? I learned.
Yeah.
If I would not have ran that a second time, I probably wouldn't have learned what I learned on the second run. I learned, okay, shit went wrong. Relax, calm down, bop, bop, bop. And I was much more relaxed on the second one after the mistake. Right. So I learned from the first run. I learned stay in it. You can't make up the time anyway. And I was still 2 seconds faster than the first run because I didn't start slinging rounds. So it's just things like that, I mean, I made a Mindset Monday this week that you were a big part of. You were the reason I actually ended up making that Mindset Monday. We sat down on the phone this weekend while I was out training, and we had a long conversation about where you're at and where your training is. And I didn't question your effort, but I questioned your effort. Like, what's your commitment level, right? I mean, I remember saying to you, like, Todd, what is your commitment level? How bad do you want this? Because I'm going to tell you how bad I want it. My ass ran a match on Sunday. I was there Saturday night, putting it together, came back on Sunday morning, ran the match, left at 1 o'clock, went and got lunch, and my ass came back to the range after my lunch, after my match, and I still went and practiced after that. So I was like, I question everyone's commitment. Well, I mean, I really do. When I see people that, they complain about how they don't have time or they don't get to practice. What's your commitment, man? What do you want out of this game? What do you want out of the game? That's my question, and it always will be. Right.
And it's funny because I know you and Tyler talk, and you probably talk about your favorite trainee a lot. But one of the things that Tyler and I talked about Sunday when we were practicing at the range, he's like, so Tyler's like, okay, I'm not okay with being okay, but you seem to accept that. And I'm like, that's a good statement.
That's a great statement.
Yeah. I was just like, I thought about it, and I was like, I'm moving out of that zone, but I'm still in that zone, and I want to be in that zone. I want to be whatever my classification says I am. I want to be top 3, top 5, whatever it is, every place I go. And that's something that I'm getting better at, but I'm not there because I'm not doing all the stuff and as I should and remembering the stuff. And it's the let's go out there and just do it and it'll come, which it does somewhat, but you got to put the effort, you got to put the mental game into it. You have to do everything else with that. And so I shot area 5. I shot at area 5, and I'm going to tell you, man, I haven't been this upset with myself in a long time. Like, I know.
My buddy Troy, my buddy Troy Duncan that I shot with in Ohio. Big shout out to him, bro. He's a really great guy. You meet people in this sport that are just genuinely great people, right? So we rode together. I flew up there to Cincinnati or wherever the hell airport I went to, and he picked me up and we drove to Michigan, and we stayed together, shot the match. And it's really funny because I'm not a negative person. Like, I'll say what needs to be said out loud. Like I have no problem with that, but I'm not a negative person. I'm genuinely a positive, happy dude. Like, I love my life. I love this sport. Even there's people in this sport that I could do without in my life ever again. But this is an amazing game, right? We get to do this for a hobby, like shoot shit on the move. Like, it's pretty awesome. But I will tell you, I have not been this pissed off in a very, very long time. I was so upset with myself after Area 5. And my poor buddy Troy, man, we drove home almost 3 hours. And I bet you the first hour of that conversation was me. Dude, I made a video of myself. Like, I had to talk to my phone because I had to get it out. And Troy doesn't talk a whole lot, so it's kind of perfect. He just lets me never shut up. So it's really kind of good. Yeah, right. Exactly. Wait, but where's Craig? He would have got his joke in there. But I sat down and talked to Troy quite a bit. And he was like, dude, I understand. He's like, I get it. And I'm upset too. He's like, I never shot this bad in my life. And I was like, dude, I didn't shoot bad. I didn't shoot bad. I shot really well. I just had moments, like bullets, right? Like one bullet here or one bullet there. It wasn't even that I shot bad. So that's the thing I think I was the most frustrated with, is I shot really well. Dude, I was in the top 3 against 2 professional shooters, right? Like, literally professional shooters, national champions. I'm right there with those guys, and I don't even shoot for a living. I had the lead on day 1 and I dropped it, right? I dropped it. And I don't do that. Like, that's not me. When I love the pressure moment, I want the ball. Like, send me the ball, coach. I'll get it, right? I'm going to throw the touchdown. I'm going to get the touchdown. That's just the way I've always been. And I love those moments. And honestly, the stage that killed me was where it happened was 4. My fundamentals just fell to shit. Like, I shot. I had a pretty good draw. Everything was good. I have to shift over. And when I shifted, I was just on overdrive, man. I wasn't focusing. I don't know. And we talked about this a lot recently, but I didn't eat. I didn't eat a lot of food. I ate a lot in the morning, but I woke up at 5:30 that day, stretched, but did a little bit of working out to get warmed up. Felt great, man. This match, I felt so good physically. Like, I took a week off of working out before the match because I had been beating the shit out of my body for like 3 months straight. My wife is killing me with the legs. I've been working out, all this stuff. So I took a week off, and I worked out Thursday in the hotel. I worked out Thursday, and then I stretched Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever days I was there. And I felt great, rolled, everything was good. But I'm still pissed about the way that match went. Dude, I'm telling you, I cannot express it enough. Like, the internal fire and how pissed I am at myself right now for that match. I had that match. Listen, I have to earn the match though. I don't want to say like, oh man, these guys got lucky. No, I have to keep my head together and still win that match. But I was 50 points up on day 1. That's a lot of points to lose in day 2. Right. And yeah, it's a tough match, but I had shot some of the toughest stages of the match. I felt like the second half of my match was easier. Obviously, the one that I dropped it on actually was one of the stages I hated. I really hated that effing stage. Not just because I shot it bad, but before I even shot it, I was like, God, I hate this stage. It was just uncomfortable. I just couldn't get locked in physically, right? And I guess that's probably why I shot it like shit. So, but it was a great match, man. I'm not gonna lie. That match proved to me where I am as a shooter. I didn't think I was as good as I was in that match. Like, I didn't think I had the skill set to execute a lot of those things and be at the top. Like I doubted myself in many ways before I hit that match. Does that make sense? I mean, that doesn't usually sound like me, but I am a person, I'm a human being. And, I feel like I have weaknesses in my shooting. I don't feel that much anymore. Like I mean, there's always room to get better. I'm not saying that, but I feel so much better after that match. Right. I mean, if I had to lose, this is probably a good time to lose.
Yeah.
Because I'm pissed off.
I feel sorry for Troy because I know my conversations with you since Area 5, let alone his at the match all the way home.
Well, it's funny because I met his girlfriend. She's awesome. Her name was Kim. She's super great. And we had she follows shooting because of him. And we had a lot of conversations at the thing. And we, there was a lot of mental stuff going on at that match right afterwards. It was great because talking to Troy and he's like, oh man, I shot like shit. And I'm like, Troy, you shot really well. I was like, it was the hardest match I've ever shot. It really was. It was the hardest match I've ever shot. And he was just like, oh man, but I shot 13 mics or something like that. And then I was like, have you even looked to see how you did? Like you might've won with 13 mics. Like that's how hard the match was.
Yeah. Well, Max Michelle had what, 6 mics?
He had 7 mics. He had, I think he had 6 mics and a no shoot. So, so Troy shoots, he had 3 mics away from winning his class. So I said to him, I said, yeah, you really shot shitty. You know what I mean? Like if you're literally 3 bullets away from winning your division, you didn't really have a shitty match. Now, obviously it depends on what your standards are, right?
Yeah.
But we get wrapped up sometimes in our shooting and we don't think about that's why I kind of made a video when I first exited the match, because I was like, dude, I don't want to be down on myself about my performance. I want to be pissed about the results, not my performance. Because I really did shoot a good match. I mean, I was very, very happy with my shooting. There's always room for improvement. Always. I mean, if you miss a piece of steel, that's a mic. Even though you can make it up, it's a mic, right? So I go back and I watch some of the stages and I listen for those things. I don't care like, all right, yeah, my footwork, I'm looking for footwork, timing. What did I do? When did I pull the trigger? All those kind of things. So if I'm here and miss, those are all mics. That's a quarter of a second, right? Before the steel goes down. Start adding those numbers up and you start to see, okay, maybe I shouldn't be going as fast on a 35-yard small mini popper, or did I sit on the target for too long aiming at it kind of thing, right? Those are all things that I go back and rewatch in those videos. And, like I said, man, I'm kind of glad I'm pissed. It's really motivated me to put the work in. I think I don't think I'd be putting in the amount of effort that I am right now in my shooting.
And I know this is probably too little too late, but my regimen has really changed from up until actually for like last 3 weeks. I've been doing this, shoot a match and then go work out, then go shoot on Sunday.
Yeah.
Actually, it didn't happen when I was down in Florida, but before that and since then, I shot a match, went in practice on Sunday, and that's a lot of time and money investment on it. I mean, a match is 150, 200 bullets, but when I go to the range, it's usually like 300 to 600.
Yeah.
So, and then you're shooting 1,000 in a weekend.
That's the commitment I'm talking about, bro. That's what I talked about earlier. That is, and this is the worst time to be a committed shooter.
I know. Trust me.
Not a cheap, easy way.
Cents around. Yeah.
Right. So, you can substitute that with dry fire. Like when you go to the range and you're running stages, dry fire them. You don't need to shoot them every single time.
But I dry fire probably about 30% of it. But to me, dry fire is good. Yes, you can run it. You can get your dot up and stuff like that. But for where I'm at trying to run it and learn the new format I'm doing, I've got to have that live fire.
Yeah. Dude, listen, I'm a big live fire guy. Yeah. I will pick live fire over dry fire all day. I'm the opposite of some other people. Like I'm the shoot guy over the dry fire guy. I enjoy shooting. I feel like I get instant feedback. Yes, there are times while I'm on the range that I need to stop pulling the trigger so that I can feel something or, see something, see if there's some movement that I'm having because of the dot tells me a lot. So, you have to dry fire that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but nothing beats live fire if you can afford it or if you have the time to do it. I just talked to a guy this weekend and I said to him, I said, man, what are you doing to train? And he's like, oh, he's like, I practice a lot. And I go, oh, that's cool. What do you practice? He goes, I do a lot of dry fire. I said, how many times do you shoot? Like, how much are you shooting? He goes, oh, I don't really get to shoot a lot. I come out to the match that you guys build, but I have to dry fire a lot more. I was like, you need to fight for some time to get that live fire because you can't fix live fire shooting with only dry fire. You have to go to the range and get some of that live fire done.
A lot of it, because what I'm practicing when I do my dry fire, I will make sure whatever it is I'm working on in dry fire that week or whatever it is, I go out and confirm it with live fire because that's going to tell me if I'm messing up in dry fire or if I'm following the right path. Yep. And if you don't get that information, you could do dry fire and you can build in a bad habit that you're never going to break.
Yeah.
Not never, but it'll be really tough to break it if you put hours of dry fire in with that bad habit.
Yeah, it's so big, dude. I mean, live fire is it's something that's super underrated. I shouldn't say underrated, but because of our situation and how everything's going, we put a lot into dry fire. We do so much into dry fire because of the financials, but at the end of the day, nothing repairs or replaces your live fire shooting. The more you can live fire shoot, the better you get in the sport because you have instant feedback, right? There's a lot of people who do a lot of dry fire and they can get away with it, but there's a lot of people that do dry fire and actually go the opposite direction that I've seen because they don't actually confirm that the things they're training are working in your live fire. So, you have to give that, you have to have a good balance there, a good happy medium there, or you're not going to be able to get better in the sport. But so I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to end the podcast on a negative note and be pissed off about my Area 5. So are you, what's your next match?
Gonna go up to a match I've only shot once this weekend. Gonna go up to Asheville Practical Shooting Association up in Burnsville. It's up on literally almost on the top of a hill / mountain.
Nice.
Mountains to me are the Rockies, not what we have around here. I grew up in Kansas where it's flat, but we always went to Denver and the Rockies are mountains.
Right.
But anyway, it's an interesting range because it's in a meadow that they cleared out on towards the top of this mountain, and you can only shoot 2 squads on it, but there's 6 stages.
Nice.
Because of the logistics of it. But they make it work, and it's not. I think there's maybe 40, probably about 30 people that go and do it, but it's still a fun one. And Chris Barrett and one of my that's Hartley's range.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I love Hartley, dude.
Barrett, and Hartley. So I'm going to go out there and shoot with them, and I think one of the reasons I want to do it. Well, Tyler's not going to be there. It's going to be me going in an uncomfortable zone if nobody else goes that I know outside of Hartley and Britt and some of the other guys, and I'm going to have to go and work on all this stuff myself. Which, I mean, having your buddies there is great, but I also need to make sure I'm pushing it. And then whatever I mess up there, coming back and going to go work on it on Sunday.
Good. That's awesome. That's what I want to hear. And then from there, it's, I guess, hell, man, it's almost there. It's Georgia's after that, right? So
no, from there, that's a second Saturday. Then you got the third Saturday. There's 3 weeks till Georgia because then I've got the second Saturday, third Saturday. I'll probably do Spartanburg or might go up to Aaron's match up. The only thing about that, it's another 2-hour drive to that match up in, it's also up in Burnsville, North Carolina.
What's that commitment like though? That's all I want to hear. Doesn't matter how far, dude. We have state matches here that are 3 hours that I drive to if I need it.
Well, I mean, a state match, I'm driving to it, but
No, I'm talking about a local match, dude. Listen, if I need practice, I'm going to a damn 3. I'll drive 3 hours if that's what it takes.
I've got a local 45 minutes away, and then I could go to Aaron's, which is about 2 hours. So or there's another one that weekend that I haven't shot that's 2 hours away also. But so I've got 3 options there. Then the 4th Saturday is Belton, where we're put on that one, and then Georgia, the Nets, and then cry. No, I'm
You'll be ready. Dude,
So
Nationals, let's touch on that real quick because I want to bring that up since now that the matchbook's out.
Yeah, the stages.
Yeah. I don't really follow the matchbook per se when it comes to, like, I don't try to worry about what's on those things. But what I do watch for is for weird things. I'm looking for start positions. I'm looking for unusual starts. Yes. I'm also looking for if they're unloaded starts, if they're, mags on barrels, that kind of thing. If there's any low ports, low shooting positions. And it's not really I'm looking for something that I don't train on a regular basis. Strong hand weekend. Let's have that talk real quick. Area 5 had one of the hardest stages I've ever shot in my life, not because of distance, not because it was strong hand weekend. It was because it was both. Mm-hmm. They put 25-yard strong hand or weekend, your choice, slashers, tuxedos, and slashers. I was like, holy shit. And you had to make a decision whether you were going to shoot that strong hand or weekend. I'm going to tell you right now, almost everybody shot that strong hand, long distance stuff. And then the close stuff was no shoots, but even the close stuff, I think it was 15 yards with no shoots on it. So I practiced I did not know that stage was there. I did not know they had strong hand or weak hand at the match. I don't remember really looking at the matchbook. I think I looked at it real quick, but I don't even remember looking at the start positions. I just looked to see what they had. Like looking at the stage. I think I read a few of them, but I don't think I read all of them because I don't remember seeing that specifically saying I needed to practice that. So I always practice strong hand weekend at every practice before I leave. So in other words, if I have a mag left of bullets, 2 mags, whatever it is, I always practice strong hand weekend. I highly recommend that you practice strong hand weekend at every practice.
Yep.
That way, no matter what they give you, you're ready.
Yep. Guess what we did Sunday?
Strong hand weekend. Yep. Guess what we have at Nationals this year, ladies and gentlemen? Strong hand weekend.
Not in boxes, but moving.
Strong hand weekend. And they require reloads from strong hand to weekend. So you're going to have a mandatory reload. You got to go to your left. Then you got to shoot. I think you can go, you're going to keep your strong freestyle and then you switch over or whatever it is. But I'm pretty sure there's a mandatory reload in there after you shoot. So these are all things that if you don't practice on a regular basis, they become weaknesses, right? Yep. So for me, I shot that stage and I had only one mic and I called the shot, but because it was a Virginia count, I had to keep the mic. But I had a dead center hit on the first one. The second one, I just moved just a little bit, but at 25 yards, that moves it 3-4 inches. So I just missed the A zone and got a mic on that. But I was super excited about how I shot that stage. I felt great. The last thing I want to talk about with Area 5, it should be. So I shot with a lot of my students. No, I'll never stop talking about that to myself. I probably won't bring it up again because nobody gives a shit about me being pissed off, but I'm mad at myself. But one of the things that happened at the match, I shot with a lot of people that were my students from Illinois. Mm-hmm. And we hung out the whole match. We ate dinners together. Those guys were amazing. Love those guys. I noticed something in having conversations with a couple of my students that were in that class that I didn't shoot with. When you're shooting a match and you're getting ready to go up to a stage, or let me rephrase that, before it's your turn, like let's just say throughout the entire stage, right? Let's just say you go, you paste, you do 2-3 things, you go paste, you paste, whatever. If there is not a place in your mindset that you go to the safe table and do some draws during that time, like after you've pasted, go over to the safe table, do some draws, work on your grip, practice reload with an empty mag, whatever it is you need to do. If you haven't gone to that safe table since the time that you entered the range at the beginning of the match or the beginning of the day, you're doing something wrong. You need to take advantage of that safe table when you're on the range. The safe table is not just there to take your gun out of your bag and put it in your holster.
Mm-hmm.
It is there for you to practice your stage. You can go to that safe table and run the stage with the firearm in your hand. You literally can stand there and visualize the stage and shoot the berm. Reload, boom, 2, 4, 6, 8, boom, reload, 2, 4, 6, 8. You can visualize the stage while you're at that safe table. You can go practice your draw so that when you get up to the stage, you've already drawn 50 amazing or 25 or 10 or 5 or hell, even 2 great draws before you walked up to that stage.
Yep.
So one of the shooters asked me, he goes, oh, so what, you just don't paste? I go, absolutely not. You absolutely paste. I say, but there is so much dead time in our game that people don't realize that we don't take advantage of. How long do you stand over there shooting the shit with your buddies, talking crap, instead of going to focus before it's your turn?
Yep. Do they have safe tables in every bay at Nats?
No, they did not. Oh, at Nats? No, they don't. Not usually.
Okay.
They don't have the room for them. But again, doesn't matter. I mean, this match that we went to Area 5, they were so spread out with safe tape. They had lots of them, but they were spread out. Like sometimes you'd be on a bay over here and you had to go across the aisle to get to it. It wasn't even like, technically it wasn't on the stage next to you, it was on the stage across from you. So you'd have to walk over there. So what I would do is we would paste. As soon as we got done pacing, I walked away from the stage and went over and drew. It's amazing how by the time I got back to the stage after I drew for 5 minutes, the guy had just started making ready or had just finished the stage and I could walk over and start pasting. Now,
Yep.
Now, if the safe table's on the bay, you have zero excuse to not be dry firing.
That's what I like about Georgia. They have safe tables on, I think, every bay there.
I mean, listen, it breaks down to 2 things: lack of knowledge, not knowing that you should be doing that, or laziness, period. And it almost always falls on laziness. Everybody knows you can go to the safe table and draw and practice. They just don't understand that there's a huge benefit there.
Yep.
It's a big, big benefit. So the reason I brought this up is because one of my friends, Chris, who actually was a student in Illinois, did not shoot with us. And I told him, I said, man, I really love Chris. Like, there's something about him. I met him in Alabama this year and I DQ'd and I didn't get to shoot with him, but we struck it off like right away. Just super great guy. Right. So I shot with him at the Mississippi Classic and we shot together the whole match and just really enjoyed his company. We have a lot of fun. He's just such a great guy. So we shot, even though he shoots wrong-handed, he's a lefty. So we shoot. This match, we didn't get to squad up, even though I was hoping we would, because it was all the same group of guys, but he wasn't able to squad up. So I asked him, I said, dude, we were talking on day 1 about how everything went. And I said, have you gone to the safe table at all? Because some of the things that he was happening to him was because he was losing a little bit of his fundamentals during the stage. And I was like, have you gone to this? And it was all stuff I'm like, you shouldn't be losing that if you're actually at the safe table and getting that, reminding yourself that fundamentals matter. He's like, no, I never go to the safe table. I was like, never? Like, ever? Like, during the match, you never go? He goes, no, never. I never even think of it. He goes, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Maybe I'll try that. The very next day, I'm like, don't forget the safe table stuff, dude. Get to the safe table. So we talk at the end of the match. And I'm like, how'd you do? He goes, honestly, man, I crushed the one-handed stage. I go, really? I was like, dude, that's awesome. That was the hardest stage in my opinion. He goes, I didn't have any mics. I crushed it. I was like, that's awesome. And he goes, you know what I did? I went to the damn safe table and I practiced my ass off. And I go, so how did you do on the other mat? He goes, I didn't actually go to the safe table on any other stage but this one. I was like, Chris, dude, I fucking told you to go to the safe table. He's like, I know it works now. Right.
And just little things like that not everybody, there's been little things that we've talked about that I've instituted. Like the last 2 matches I went to, I think it was since I trained with you in Florida, I'm burning up every time I go up there and shoot now, it's the little things I never thought of, but you get into the routine of it. So when you need to, you don't have to think about it. You just automatically start with 23+1.
Yep.
And all your other mags are 22. You're good.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's all consistency. It's being consistent all the time. So if you can do something repeatedly over and over and over again, it's really hard to make that mistake over and over and over again, right? Because if you're fixing it before it even happens, what if you needed one bullet? Seriously, like what if you need one bullet and the only reason that you don't have that one bullet was because you were too lazy to take the mag and put the extra bullet in it?
There was 3 times where when I went and picked up the mag, I dropped. One time it was empty, and there was 2 times that had one bullet left in it. I'm like, I was like, yeah. Every time I picked up, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to tell Tom this is a good idea.
Screw you, Tom. So, I mean, the Barney thing isn't just because you want the extra rounds. It's also consistency.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because what if the stage that you needed 24 rounds for, that it's a 24 round stage and you're like, all right, cool. I'm gonna load up like I normally do. And you didn't Barney. What if you Barneyed up on the stage before, but the next stage you only needed 22 rounds? You'd be like, cool, I don't need it. Why the hell would you not take the extra round?
Yep. And that's just something stupid simple.
Yep.
I've changed since that conversation. I'm like, that makes sense. And I've had that conversation with other shooters that said down there.
Did they do it?
One of them changed it too. One
Nice.
other one's like, he's like, I can remember I've been doing it this way. I'm like, okay. I was like, I've shot a stage where I needed to Barney and I knew that. And I get to that last target, I'm like, son of a
standing reload.
Yep.
So I want you to think about this. This is the best part of that whole story. You're standing there and you're doing a standing reload. You could have done a standing reload off the clock.
Oh, I know.
Had that bullet.
Take those 2 seconds or whatever. But yeah, you're like, because the standing reload's always the longest too, because first you have to realize you're out.
Yep.
Then you have to go and
I mean, I'll tell you, it's amazing to me how many people have come up to me and asked me about the mechanics and said, hey man, you Barney up or do you shoot 23+1? I go, every time. I listen, if my stage is 8 rounds, I Barney.
Yeah, I did it on the classifier.
Yep, I Barney. It doesn't matter to me. I do the same start every time. I grab the same mag every time, same position. I always set my mags the same way. I always have 23 rounds on the far back one. I load from the one right in front of it so that when I load, I have a full mag in the front, full mag in the second. My third mag's the one that's one down. And then I have my main start mag every time is 23 rounds. Done.
On your loading mags, can you do 23 or do you got to do 22?
No, no, I can, but I don't. I always download to 22. I always download. The reason why is because of if I really need it, I can reload to a 23 round mag. The problem with a 23 round mag is you got to hammer it in.
Oh yeah.
Like you got to hammer it in. So I don't like doing that unless it's something that there's got to be a significant advantage. In other words, if I'm doing that, I need to be finishing on 23 rounds, right? Like it's the round count's close or it's going to cost me an extra reload and a significant thing. Those are time wise, then that's why I would do that. But very rarely do I ever have to do that. So it's just kind of the way it is. But I'll tell you, man, it's I've gotten to the point now where I'm willing to go for 24 rounds on a stage if it'll give me the win.
Yeah.
I will definitely go without a reload. I'll do it. If there's 24 rounds and it requires me to go 1 for 1, I'm going to go 1 for 1. And then if it doesn't go well, I'll have a reload planned out.
And that's what I did. There's a stage. I just looked it up, like 9th overall on the stage this last weekend, but it was a 22 round stage with 2 pieces of steel. And it was a short movement stage because this one's just always got to be compact. And I was like, shoot this, get this steel here. Because if I don't go 1 for 1 on the steel, I know I have to do a reload.
Yeah.
And I remember when I went 1 for 1 on that steel, I had a little celebration in my head. I'm like, no reload, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's one of those things in practice you should be doing. Like if you're going to matches, local matches, you should be trying to go to 24 rounds and get used to that. Get that understanding that shooting under pressure doesn't mean shoot slower.
No.
Right? Just because you only have 24 rounds doesn't mean you should shoot slower. I listen, if I have a stage where I'm shooting with no reload, I'm hauling ass still. I'm still doing my job. If I have to do a makeup shot, screw it. I got to do a makeup shot. It didn't work out. I got to reload. It's not worth it to me to shoot slower just because I'm pushing the round count.
Well, you got to remember, for me, the key has been to put that contingency reload in and have that mental aspect that you did it. Like when I was actually, this sounds stupid, proud of myself not only for going 1 for 1, that it clicked in my head that I didn't have to reload instead of just going on. It was actually a mental thought. Okay, no reload, let's go.
Yeah.
And your video, you're back.
No, I'm good. Yeah, it's kind of jumped up. Yeah, I had area 5. I actually walked the stage with the same exact conversation with a guy. I was like, I'm going to shoot. It was 22 round stage, all paper, but everything was tuxedos and no shoots and just a bunch of hard shit, right? Not too far, but a lot of transitions and really wide transitions, like 15-yard gaps between some of these transitions.
Mhm.
And you were shooting through ports. And the guy asked me, he's like, are you reloading? I said, I don't think I'm going to. I said, but if from this point here, I have any makeup shots, even one, I'll reload. And he goes, really? He goes, you don't have a problem with that secondary, like having a backup plan? I go, not at all. Why? Why is that an issue? Because I've already made the decision that from this point on, I'm going for it or I'm not going for it, right? Without a reload.
Yeah.
And I ended up being in the top 4 with a reload that I didn't plan on. Right. I had an extra makeup shot that I was like, I'm going to reload. And I reload. And now I reloaded a little later than I would have liked to. Right. But it didn't matter. I was still in the top 5 on that stage. Or I think I was 4th overall on that stage. Where I lost that stage was transitions. I felt so weird. Like my coming in and out of those positions, I just couldn't get comfortable enough to like sling the gun around, right? Like I just was like, I just couldn't get myself to turn and get going where I wanted to go. But I mean, I was competitive. That's all I wanted to be on that stage. I felt good. I was the first shooter. I had a terrible stage. Well, I had one bad shot on the stage before that cost me a lot of time because I shot a no shoot and had to transition back and forth to go make up the no shoot on a bobber. So that really, I wasn't coming in there with a great feeling, but it is what it is. But I was really surprised that the guy asked me if it was I was really surprised that he asked me if I was okay with that, and doing that. I was like, well, yeah, don't you have moments where you're like, well, if I can push it, I will, or not? I guess they don't. I guess a lot of people don't think like that.
Up until the last year, I couldn't have done, well, last probably 6 months, let's be honest. I would not be able to put a contingency reload in. If I thought there was a 5% chance, I was automatically reloading.
Why? I mean, what is the fear of, especially with, okay, so it's not nationals. You're not going to nationals. So why? What does it matter if you're at a local match that you practice those things?
I mean, you're correct. And it's a mental thing. And I know that. And I'm just saying that's why up until recently, I wouldn't have done it. But now I know, hey, I'm confident in more confident, not 100%, but more confident in my shooting ability and my mental aspect. I know that I'm going to be able to remember my stage plan. Hey, up to this point, you shot 3 shots on this. You got to get that reload in here or whatever it is. But before that, I don't think I know I wasn't mentally there. So,
I think nationals is going to change your, I think nationals is going to change you a lot, bro. I really do. I think nationals you're going to walk out of nationals and go, all of these other matches mean nothing. Like they mean nothing. I cannot express enough how important areas are and nationals. Like those matches to me. And honestly, I got to a point where I didn't really get excited for area matches, but now I'm like, all right, these are the matches that matter. Area matches and nationals. That's the matches that I give a shit about. So now everything else beyond that is just a local match with a 2 on it, I guess. Right. And I don't want to shit on anyone's matches, but like it's the national championship. Like you have one national champion, right?
And all that depends on your level of participation and commitment.
I agree.
Up until recently, I mean, sections were. Now I'm like, okay, I want to do good at the area matches and not shit myself. And then,
so I will tell you, dude,
Yeah.
you have a bad, your sectional match is really good, like really good. So
Mhm.
you might have a little bit of a letdown at nationals because your match is good, but not all sectional matches are that good. At least
Yeah.
not all of them I've been to. So they're good, but like your match was really good. The pasting, the half day format, the quality of the ROs, you know, the range, there's a lot of things you have going at your place that are, you know, you do a great job running that match. You have a good section coordinator. I don't think every match is like that in sectionals all over this country. We have a pretty good sectional match here in Florida. I think Gorka and them run that. That's usually a pretty good match. I think I can't remember the last one I missed. I think I've done them almost every year, but those are good. But not all sectional matches are put on like nationals, right? Like level 2, like they just have a number next to it, but it's like, oh, well, that's cool. That's a regular stage and that's a regular stage. You know what I mean? They're not like, I'm going to tell you, area 5, I thought area 6 was good this year, but area 5 blows out every area match I've ever been to. And I've been to almost every area 6 match that there is in the last 4 years, right? In 3-4 years, whatever it is. But this area 5, man, they put it on you as a shooter. And it's not just the difficult, like how difficult it was. It was also that what an amazing facility that place was. Like, bro, when you pull up to the registration and the sprinklers are running, you're like, damn, this place is pretty nice. You know, it's like they have sprinklers at the range, you know? I mean, it's like, they just do a really nice job with the aesthetics of that range as well. And it's not, and what I mean by aesthetics, it's not like when you go to Alabama where the clubhouse is the nicest part of the range, right? The bays are nice and stuff, but like that range is, it's just a different feel, right? You're walking around, just grass everywhere. It's just a different type of feeling at that range. It's super great weather when we were there. I loved how everybody was bitching about how hot it was. I'm like, dude, you guys don't know what hot is. Like, I came out of the hotel and didn't sweat. Like, this is beautiful. You know what I mean? It's like you come out of the front door, man, and you're sweating your ass off before you even get in the car to go to the range. So
I know. Trust me.
It was a lot different. It was just, I don't know, man. I tell you, it was nice to have a hard match like that before nationals this year. I have not had that type of a match before nationals. I don't think ever yet. I'm telling you, dude, that was the hardest match I've ever shot. It really was. It was, and not in a bad way. I don't want people to be discouraged when you see a hard match. I think people get discouraged when they see how many mics they had, but they don't look at it from an overall match standpoint, right? Like, I think stage 13. It was stage 13 with the one-handed shooting. Day 1, staff day, day 1, there was not a single shooter that didn't have a mic on that stage.
Wow.
Then day 2, one of the guys, George, I'd love to take credit for this because he's a student of mine, but George shot no mics on our squad. No mics, had 0 mics. He was the first guy. I think he said he was the second guy at the time it was Saturday, that had the only other guy who didn't have any mics on that stage shot it clean.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, it was very impressive. And he shot it with a pretty good pace, right? So he shot it pretty well. But again, it's, you know, so when you go back and look at your matches and you look at your scores, how can you even be pissed about that stage? Right now, I mean, if you shoot 6 mics, 5 mics, 3 mics, there's, you know, and you start looking at numbers as they add up. Yeah, that sucks. But you have to look at how many other people had multiple mics, right?
Is Area 5 going to be at the same place ran by the same people again?
I think so. And I hope that I hope it's not as hard next year. So, well, listen, I'm down with it. I'm not saying that, but I'll tell you, the one thing about that match is you had to have your shit wired tight. Like you couldn't take a bullet off. Like you couldn't even take one single trigger pull off. Right. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I think part of the reason why it was a harder match than what it probably really was, like to the shooter, and especially to me, was because the easy targets, you couldn't take them for granted because you were expected to have mistakes on other targets. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you're running these stages and you're like, F, I had a mic on the damn 5-foot target, but I shot at 2 alphas on a 25-yard freaking tuxedo. Like, how the hell do I hit that? And I can't hit this one 5 feet in front of me. So it was like you could not make mistakes on the easy shit because the hard shit was where you were supposed to make mistakes, right? So I don't know. I remember Troy walking off from a stage. It was stage 5, and Troy was pissed. He shot a no shoot. Or no, a mic. He shot over the top of this target. And it was funny because unless you knew what you were looking for, you couldn't tell that the target it had a pretty big A zone on it. But as you got farther away from it, it got smaller and smaller and smaller visually. But it was still the same pretty big A zone from close up. So when you walk up to it, you're like, oh, actually, there's a lot of A there to shoot at on the IPSC target. But because as you got farther away, it made the target feel smaller, right? It made it seem like it was a much tighter A than it really was. So he shot over the top of it, but he crushed that stage. He shot that stage really, really well. And he walked off and he was pissed. And I was like, dude, I don't want to hear any of your bullshit. Like, you better not complain about this stage. I said, that target was supposed to be a mic, like it was designed to get a mic. So the fact that you crushed everything and you made a mistake on the one that was supposed to give you a mistake, I get it. You're not supposed to be happy about a mic, but you shouldn't be upset because you got a penalty on a target that was literally designed to screw you up. Right? You either got a no shoot or a mic on the damn thing. That's the way it was designed to do to you. So it's just, you have your perspectives, right? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? Kind of thing, So I don't know, man. It was a great match. Like I said, I'm glad I went. It was the first time I've ever been there. First time I've ever been to Michigan. And it was awesome, dude. I would definitely, it's on my list for next year. Actually, I talked to the match director and told him how great he did. I thought his staff is amazing. I thought everybody's super nice. I got to meet people that I've only known from Facebook. So that was kind of cool. It was a good match, man. Like I said, they did a great job. I hope to definitely go there next year and give it a run again, but we'll see. How that goes, man. Depends on how the world goes next year.
November. But yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No kidding. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, but well, I think we got off the podcast, bro. I think we're going to end the podcast. We didn't get, hopefully there's no suspensions after this. We'll be good. We didn't say anything wrong. So stay positive. Stay positive, people. Stay positive. Yeah.
Protect that First Amendment. Anyway.
There's only a First Amendment if you're not a member. It only works if you're not a member.
You don't get a First Amendment.
Yeah, dude, I don't even care. I'm so over the bullshit. Like I've been keeping my nose out of it. I just
I do care, and that's part of the problem though, because, and I'm just gonna say this one quick thing because I could go on and on. When we're protecting our Bill of Rights and they take away one of the Bill of Rights, and our area directors are military, they've always said this and stuff like that. That's their background. And they take away one of the Bill of Rights that they went and fucking fought for. That's bullshit.
So if you haven't figured it out yet, dude, some of the 2A people that we shoot with, some of the 2A people in this country are the biggest hypocrites you'll ever meet in your life.
Yep.
So
anyway, now we're going to get banned.
Well, I didn't say anybody's name, so I don't know who I don't know who you're talking about, because I ain't talking about anybody specific. I'm talking about 2A people in general.
Yep.
Like it's in our community. Unfortunately, you have people that are very hypocritical about, they say one thing, but they do something different.
Yep. So
I will say this, and I'll end it on this, because I don't have a dog in this fight. It's nothing personal for me. Here's where it's personal. I know people that, yes, are having issues, but I will tell you, and here's my issue. I'm really tired, and a lot of people don't know my story because I keep it quiet. I have been threatened with a ban since the day I started in this sport. This year, I almost quit shooting last year because of the bullshit. There are people that are here in Florida that are friends with people that are USPSA board of directors and people that are in charge. I was threatened to not be, that I would be removed from the sport because I don't have friends on the USPSA board. And the main reason why I've had an issue is because of my personality, because I refuse to be someone different. I am who I am. I talk a lot. I laugh. I joke. I don't take life too serious. And I just, I've been threatened with it over and over and over and over again. So I have a real issue with banning people. I always have. So you have people that want to see people in USPSA fired. I never want to see anybody fired. I've been threatened with that before in my lifetime because someone didn't like my personality, didn't like the way I ran something or did a job or whatever it is. And instantly they go, "I'll fire the guy. Who gives a shit about his livelihood, his family, him trying to pay his bills, or just fire the guy." I get it. Sometimes that's the only answer. I'm not saying that's not the answer. But I never want to see somebody lose their livelihood. I never want to see somebody lose their job. And some of the people that are out there screaming, fire the guy or fire that person, that guy might deserve to lose his job. That guy's a dick. I'm not going to say, he's a dick to me. He treats me like shit. He only knows of me through someone else who happens to be a problem for me in this state. They don't know me personally. They don't know my family. They don't know how much work I put into this sport. They don't know how much I care about other people, not myself. So yeah, we have issues in this sport, and I never want to see somebody fired, but you should not ever, if you're in charge, run things with your personal opinion. It's about the business and about the company. It's not about your personal feelings.
Yep.
That's kind of how I feel, dude. I'm really big about the ban thing. I think the ban thing's a real issue in this sport. I really do. My problem with Yi Min was the comment about banning people because of
Oh, you mean what they're doing now?
What they're doing now. 100%, dude. I have an issue with that. I really do, because it's personal for me. It's a personal thing. I've experienced that feeling of what it's like to have someone try to remove this from my life because they don't like my personality, not because I've done something wrong. Not because I've caused problems or tried to start fights or tried to get people banned from the sport or called people cheaters or whatever they come up with. I've kept my mouth shut about it for long enough. And now I'm watching people that are being suspended because they spoke up. Now, I will say there are people in this sport that could go about it a different way. But I'm new to this sport, so I don't know how much they've gone about it that different way many times, right? How many times has this conversation been had over and over and over again? But I do see an issue that there's a 6-time national champion removed from the sport.
Because yeah.
But I will say, listen, I don't know the story of why they got removed. I don't care, right? I don't care. There could be some good reason that they're removing them. I don't know that reason. That's not I don't care. Right? But it's the fact that everything goes to lifetime ban or banning someone, right? Like Rader's a good example. Brandon Rader was suspended for, he had a lifetime ban or whatever the hell, a 1-year ban because he DQ'd. But guess what? He didn't get banned because of the DQ, because I've seen people DQ left and right at this sport. I've seen people point guns up range. They might not have pulled the trigger, but what the hell's the difference? They still pointed the gun at somebody. That man was DQ'd because the memes, because it brought attention to it. Now, I'm not going to say that the way he responded was perfect. It was terrible. He should have shut the up. But at the end of the day, he still got banned because of a DQ. I've seen so many people fall and pull the trigger. It just happened to be downrange. What the hell's the difference? He still did the same thing everyone else did. There's no consistency. It's just, oh, we need this to go away, ban them. That's not an answer. That's not the answer. I mean, you just should not be able to just ban people from a hobby that we spend thousands of dollars on and thousands of hours of commitment.
Yep,
There's got to
agree.
be some kind of ground rules for this. And it just feels like there's no ground rules. Like, see, this is a very sensitive subject for me, dude. I try not to talk about this because I get really fired up. Again, it's personal for me, right? It's not about the people. I don't care about the people I do care that people are being suspended. I don't want to say I don't care, but I don't have like a relationship with any of them. I have a relationship with one of them. I know them. They shoot at my local club. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to say it out loud right now. One of the men who was suspended because of the memes and because of him going after the leadership of USPSA is suspended and banned from the same exact club that I've had a problem at. They did the same exact thing to him that they did to me. Textbook a way of eliminating someone they don't like.
And is he suspended from that club and USPSA or just both?
Oh, it started with the club. It started with the club.
Yeah.
And then it went to now, but this is different. Like, so it's a separate issue, right? They don't like him. They wanted rid of him because he questions things. He questions rules. If he knows the rules, right? He knows the rules so well that I tell him to shut the up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't matter. Right? That's how well he knows the rules, to the point where it's like, no one cares, dude. Like, just shut up and enjoy the damn game, right? Kind of thing. But he knows the rules. He knows the rules. And when you question somebody who thinks they know more and has a power trip, who thinks they are, or they need to be in charge and micromanage shit, that's when you have problems with that type of person. I don't care about being in charge. I don't want to be in charge, but somehow I tend to lead many times. And that becomes an issue when you get a following. When people start to ask you instead of that person, there's an issue for some reason.
Yep. And
So it's just the way it is, man, in this sport, unfortunately. I think this is what I was talking about many times. I've gone on Bangin' Brass and I've talked to Brian about this, on some of the live podcasts. This is what's making our sport toxic. You have toxic leadership in positions that overstep their boundaries, right? People overstep their boundaries, period. That's all there is to it. Like, in this scenario, and I will say some of the meme guys, they overstep their boundaries, bro. I think this shit, when stuff starts getting personal, we don't know. I wasn't there. I'm not there. I don't know personal lives. I don't know what somebody else did, what they didn't do. People lie all the time in this world. They do. People lie all the time, dude. When somebody says that person has a charge against them or whatever, I don't know who they're even talking about. But how do we know? I wasn't there.
yeah.
So I don't talk about people like that. I don't care. It's not my business. It doesn't affect my life. All right. What affects my life is when someone starts banning people because they spoke up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of what America's about, the First and Second Amendments.
Think about the president position. It's worthless now. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a very good position anymore. They have no control. They have no power. They have a voice, but what does that do? It's just like, it would be no different than me and you talking. Oh yeah, I can hear you. Like, cool, I can hear you. So I don't know, just interesting.
I just feel like USPSA has ran from one fire to another in the past, I don't know, 12 to maybe 16 months. And it's not, our leadership can't get out of their own way. And
it's hard, dude. I can't, it's a hard thing, man. I don't know what the answer is either, because I don't know enough about the internal workings of USPSA in general. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, guys like, guys like Stoger, they know a lot more than I do about the internal workings of this sport. I haven't been around long enough. Like, there's stuff that some of the guys were mentioning on some of the podcasts, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was that even happened, or that guy was in charge, or, you know, I mean, I don't know enough about the sport to make opinions about whether they're doing a good job or bad job. Now, I mean, obviously I'm smart enough to tell that some of this stuff is a little crazy, and like some of the emails that are coming out and stuff that you can read about, it's not secret. Like it's all pretty much on paper, right? I mean, a lot of this now, the personal stuff, I just, you know, I don't know anything about it. I didn't read any of those. I don't care. It's just, I don't have a personal vendetta against anybody, even if they hate my guts. And
I understand what you're saying. The people in house right now are part of the problem. And we might trade it for a new set of problems. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it can't get, well, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So like, so I'll finish with this because I talked about Ye-Man a little bit on the last one. I still don't know if I finished it because so the guy who says, you know, brings it up. I'm okay having the conversation. I think that's part of the problem is he didn't finish the conversation. He just said it out loud and didn't really never really talked about it enough and said, look, this is the problem. We're having this issue in our sport, right? There is a lot of negative online about our sport. That doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good, but there's also a lot of negative online from the people that are on the board of directors as well, but nobody brings that up. Like guys, in other words, that's not what people thought immediately. They just thought, oh, the meme makers. But you also got to look, there's people that are board of directors that are on there shit talking other people, running their mouth, you know, making comments to people online and, you know, these things. So those are all people that now, what is the line though? Right? What's the line? So if I came on to if I came onto my podcast right now and I said, dude, I hate this brand of gun, Plastic Fantastic Canic's the best. Did I just shit on a sponsor? Like, did Tom get banned because he didn't like a gun? Where's the line? Seriously, where's the line? Because now I might have upset a sponsor.
Yep. And that's the truth because nobody really knows. We all suspect that why Ben got, I mean, I don't know if Ben's ever been even given the reason or any of these other guys other than 4.13. And that is such a gray area that we could, under 4.13, this conversation we're having right now, we could get banned.
I don't know, man. I just, like I said, I haven't talked about it. I really don't like talking about it because I just want to be a shooter. I want to shoot, but I do care about the sport and I care about other shooters in this sport, right? I care about other shooters in this sport. I care that people are being suspended because they're having questions. I don't like the way they all go about it. There's some stuff that I'm just like, man, if you just were just a hair tactful, little bit more tactful. This coming from a guy who doesn't have tactful very often, right? But this is why I shut up. This is why I don't talk about it. Because if I get into that conversation, I'm going to get heated about it. Like you start talking about suspensions and it takes me to another level of upsetness. Like I get pissed off, like really pissed off, like Area 5 pissed off, you know, like that pissed. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, because it's personal. It's something that I went through in this sport. I mean, the fact that I almost walked away last year should tell you everything you need to know that the first 3 years of my shooting, these motherfuckers were coming after me.
Mm-hmm.
3 years of someone trying to remove me because they don't like my personality. There's something very wrong with that.
I don't disagree. So
now I will say, just to clear it up, this was not to USPSA. It never got there because I wouldn't allow it, because I didn't give them a reason, because I wouldn't talk about it. I didn't go after them. I didn't try to push the issue. I just walked away and let it go. And they still kept trying to get me.
Yeah.
I left the range like they told me to, never came back to the range, went and got my own club, started working on my own stuff, and they still were with me at my own place. That'll tell you the level of shitheads that we have in this sport. And if you ever found out who that person was, you'd be amazed if you talk to them in their face and how fake their asses are.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, I deal with that a little bit here in South Carolina too. So
I usually don't let this stuff out, dude. I probably shouldn't even post this.
You can edit this part out so we don't get banned.
There's nothing we've done to be banned here, bro. I'm telling you, we didn't talk about anybody personal, but I'm just telling you, I usually don't talk about this, but I'm just kind of tired. You know, I'm kind of tired of it this year. Like this year, I haven't had to deal with it. It's been great. Everything's been good, but I just feel like now that these guys have been banned, I was like, you know what? I got a platform. Like, people need to understand that there's more to it than just these guys making memes. There's a lot more to this stuff that is in this sport. It's unfortunate because it happens a lot, I think, to people. And I think a lot of people just walk away, right? They walk away from their passion. They walk away from this sport with a nasty taste in their mouth. How many people, I don't know how many people I've read, I'm not renewing my membership. So I want to bring this up real quick about it as well. Don't allow them to keep you from shooting your sport. This is our sport. The shooters, it's our sport. Without us, there is no board of directors. There is no president. There is no marketing. There's nothing. Yeah. We are the sport. Don't quit and lose your passion or your hobby for this sport because of the way they're acting.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. I mean, that's dude, I'll never, never let them take me out and walk away. Dude, I'll never walk away because of them. I'll walk away because of me.
Yeah.
Never going to let that happen, bro. That just gives them a victory that they did not deserve.
Yeah.
There's only one guy right now that's running for president that hasn't actually signed anything and suspended anybody. He's the only one. There's only one. So remember that when you go to vote.
Yep.
Also, I don't have one with me, but I would love to hold up my campaign button of a tape measure to tell you who not to vote for. Remember, a guy got DQ'd from the sport for 6 inches. Some women would love 6 inches. I'm just saying.
I was gonna go there,
So I'll end the podcast on that, Todd. If you guys have any questions, hit me up in those comments and I'll see you on the range.